What if I told you there's a secret about Mary Magdalene that could completely change the way you see her? A figure wrapped in mystery, debated for centuries, and misunderstood throughout history. Mary Magdalene is not just another character from the Gospels. There's something far greater in her story that challenges what most of us know. She stood by Jesus during the most crucial moments, witnessed what no one else did, and was chosen for something so extraordinary that to this day many still struggle to comprehend why. But what really happened? What is behind this woman whose story was hidden, distorted, and suppressed for generations? There are writings and historical records that bring a whole new perspective to Mary Magdalene. Some of them reveal stunning secrets, like the fact that she may have been the first person to truly grasp the teachings of Jesus. Even more shocking, there are texts that suggest her spiritual leadership was so profound that it created tensions among the other disciples. What could be so powerful in her story that it sparked controversy in the early church? Could this be the reason her image was so unfairly altered for over 1,000 years? Beyond the traditional biblical accounts, there are lesser-known documents that few have heard about, such as the Gospel of Mary, an apocryphal text that raises fascinating questions about her role and influence. But it doesn't end there. Legends claim that Mary Magdalene traveled to France after Jesus' resurrection, living the rest of her life in seclusion, dedicating herself to prayer, faith, and spreading teachings that many consider revolutionary. But why were these stories suppressed? What made her legacy so dangerous that it had to be hidden? In this video, we will dive deep into the life and journey of Mary Magdalene. We will uncover not only the widely accepted facts, but also the hidden stories and details that may change everything you thought you knew about her. Get ready to explore a figure who transcends labels and challenges the official narrative. The question remains, who was Mary Magdalene really? What did she know? And why is her role in history both so significant and so controversial? If you believe the truth deserves to be told and that stories like Mary Magdalene's must be heard, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with someone who needs to discover this fascinating journey. And here's a challenge for you. Do you think Mary Magdalene has been underestimated in history? Leave your thoughts in the comments and like this video to help spread this message far and wide. Who was Mary Magdalene really? To understand her significance, we need to start at the very beginning, her origins, her transformation, and her journey as one of Jesus' most devoted followers. Mary was born in Magdala, a bustling town on the western shore of the Sea of Galilee. Magdala was known for its trade, fishing, and multicultural influences, a dynamic and thriving environment for someone destined to leave a lasting mark on history. Unlike many other women of her time, Mary's name is not tied to a man. She wasn't introduced as someone's wife, sister, or mother. This detail is profound. It signifies Mary as an individual of importance, a figure whose identity stood alone in an era that largely overlooked women's roles. The Gospel of Luke 8:2 marks the turning point of her life. Jesus cast out 7 demons from her. This event, though described briefly, is rich with meaning. Whether these demons represented literal possession, illness, or emotional suffering, the number 7 symbolized completeness. In this light, Mary's healing was not merely physical but also deeply spiritual, an act of profound redemption that restored her to wholeness. For Mary, this moment was transformative. She went from a life marked by suffering to one filled with purpose, a journey of light overcoming darkness. After her healing, Mary made a radical choice. She became a follower of Jesus. In first-century Judea, this decision was unprecedented. Women were expected to remain on the margins, their voices unheard, their presence unseen in public ministry. Yet Mary Magdalene defied these expectations. She traveled with Jesus and his disciples, playing an active role in his mission. The Gospel of Luke 8:3 even notes that Mary, alongside other women, provided financial support for Jesus' ministry out of their own means. This small detail reveals much. Mary likely came from some degree of wealth or independence, and she used her resources to advance Jesus' message. Mary's presence becomes increasingly significant as the Gospels unfold. Unlike many disciples who are mentioned only fleetingly, Mary Magdalene is woven into the fabric of Jesus' life and ministry. Her name appears in pivotal moments, but perhaps none as powerfully as during the crucifixion. While most of Jesus' followers fled in fear, Mary stayed. John 19:25 places her at the foot of the cross, witnessing the suffering and death of Jesus. Imagine the strength it took to stand there, to see a man she deeply loved and believed in face unimaginable agony, while others ran for safety. Her courage at the cross sets Mary apart. Where others saw only despair, she remained steadfast. Her presence during Jesus' darkest hour reflects a faith so unshakable that it transcended fear and heartbreak. Mary didn't turn away. She didn't abandon him when all seemed lost. In doing so, she became a silent but powerful symbol of loyalty, resilience, and devotion. What makes Mary's story even more remarkable is the level of trust Jesus placed in her. The Gospels indicate that Mary Magdalene was present not only during Jesus' life, but at the pivotal moments of his death, burial, and, most importantly, what was to come next. This level of inclusion challenges everything about societal norms of the time. Women were rarely recognized in religious or historical texts, yet Mary's name continued to appear, underscoring her profound importance. Mary Magdalene's life is one of transformation, devotion, and quiet leadership. Her journey, moving from a woman burdened with suffering to one of Jesus' closest followers, is a story of hope and redemption. It reminds us that anyone, regardless of their past, can find purpose and strength through faith. Mary's role as a disciple and witness is undeniable, her presence in the Gospels greater than many apostles. She was far more than a side character in the story of Jesus. She was central to his ministry and his legacy, but as we will soon explore, not everyone recognized or accepted Mary's significance. For centuries, her image was misrepresented, overshadowed by false narratives that sought to diminish her true role. Where did these misconceptions begin, and why was her legacy so profoundly altered? For centuries, Mary Magdalene has been misrepresented and misunderstood. Her image was unfairly reduced to that of a prostitute, a label that lacks any biblical or historical basis. But how did this false narrative begin, and why did it persist for over a millennium? To uncover the truth, we need to trace the origins of this damaging misconception and examine its lasting impact. The root of this error dates back to 591 AD, when Pope Gregory I delivered a sermon that would forever alter how Mary Magdalene was perceived. In his address, Pope Gregory conflated three different women mentioned in the Gospels: Mary Magdalene, Mary of Bethany, the sister of Martha and Lazarus, and an unnamed sinful woman who anointed Jesus' feet with oil and wiped them with her hair in Luke 7:36-50. By combining these distinct figures into one, Pope Gregory inadvertently labeled Mary Magdalene as the sinful woman, a prostitute without any biblical justification. The Gospels themselves make no mention of Mary Magdalene being a prostitute. In fact, the only direct reference to her past is Luke 8:2, which states that Jesus had cast out 7 demons from her. Nowhere in the New Testament is her sin described as sexual in nature. The idea that Mary was a prostitute is purely an interpretation, one that reflects the biases and cultural views of the time rather than historical fact. This misrepresentation took root and spread quickly, transforming Mary Magdalene's image from a devoted disciple into a symbol of repentance and sin. But why did this happen? Why was it so easy to distort her story? Some scholars argue that this misrepresentation served a purpose. By framing Mary Magdalene as a repentant sinner rather than a respected leader, her role as a prominent follower of Jesus and a witness to his resurrection was diminished. In a time when women's leadership in the church was being suppressed, portraying Mary as a fallen woman reinforced societal norms and diverted attention away from her true significance. The consequences of this distortion were profound. For over 1,400 years, Mary Magdalene's name became synonymous with shame and scandal. In art, literature, and popular culture, she was depicted as a sensual figure, her identity reduced to a single false narrative. These portrayals overshadowed her real story, that of a woman transformed by faith, a steadfast disciple who stood by Jesus during his darkest hours, and a witness to the resurrection, one of the most important events in Christian history. The Church officially corrected this mistake in 1969 when Pope Paul VI clarified that Mary Magdalene, Mary of Bethany, and the unnamed sinful woman were three separate individuals. Despite this, the myth of Mary Magdalene as a prostitute continues to linger in the popular imagination, perpetuated by centuries of misrepresentation. This correction allows us to see Mary Magdalene for who she truly was, a woman of deep faith, courage, and leadership. She was not defined by sin, but by redemption, not by shame, but by strength. Her story is one of profound transformation, and her role in the Gospels speaks to her importance as a central figure in Jesus' ministry. By correcting this false narrative, we not only honor Mary Magdalene's legacy, but also reclaim the truth about her life and contributions. She was not a symbol of sin, but of unwavering faith and resilience. Her story challenges us to question the narratives we have accepted and to seek the truth, even when it has been buried beneath centuries of misunderstanding. As we move forward, we'll explore just how central Mary Magdalene was to Jesus' mission, her presence at the crucifixion, and the extraordinary role she played in the most pivotal moment of Christian history. To truly understand Mary Magdalene, we must recognize her pivotal role in the ministry of Jesus, a role often overlooked but unmistakably central. Unlike many disciples whose names appear fleetingly in the Gospels, Mary Magdalene is mentioned repeatedly and in contexts of profound importance. Her presence challenges traditional perceptions of women's roles in biblical times and reveals her as not just a follower, but as an active participant and witness to Jesus' mission. The Gospels highlight that Mary Magdalene was part of a group of women who traveled with Jesus and supported his ministry, Luke 8:1-3. This detail is revolutionary. In first-century Jewish culture, women rarely traveled with male teachers or played visible roles in religious movements. Yet Mary broke through these barriers, accompanying Jesus and his disciples as they spread their message. Not only did she follow Jesus, but she also contributed financially out of her own means, suggesting that she was a woman of resource, independence, and profound dedication. What makes Mary Magdalene's role even more extraordinary is that the Gospels consistently place her at the forefront of critical moments in Jesus' life. At a time when women were rarely acknowledged, the inclusion of Mary Magdalene's name speaks volumes about her significance. She's present during Jesus' final journey to Jerusalem, at the crucifixion, and at the empty tomb, moments where most others, including many of the male disciples, were absent. The crucifixion is particularly telling. As Jesus faced unimaginable agony on the cross, most of his followers fled out of fear for their own lives. Yet Mary Magdalene remained. According to John 19:25, she stood near the cross alongside Jesus' mother and a handful of others. Imagine the strength and courage it took to be there, watching the brutal execution of someone she loved deeply. Where others saw despair and hopelessness, Mary remained steadfast. Her presence at the crucifixion was not just an act of loyalty, but a powerful testament to her unshakable faith and courage. Mary Magdalene's unwavering presence continued beyond the crucifixion. The Gospels make it clear that she played a central role in Jesus' burial. In Mark 15:47, Mary Magdalene and another woman named Mary are described as watching where Jesus was laid in the tomb. While others mourned from a distance, she was there, ensuring that she would know where to return. This detail foreshadows her extraordinary role in what was to come next. Mary Magdalene's prominence among Jesus' followers challenges traditional narratives about women in religious leadership. She was not on the sidelines. She was there, front and center, in the moments that mattered most. Her faith and courage set her apart as a disciple who understood the magnitude of Jesus' teachings and mission. Unlike many of the male apostles who abandoned Jesus in his final hours, Mary's presence reflects a depth of devotion that cannot be overstated. In many ways, Mary Magdalene's role in the ministry of Jesus was revolutionary for its time. She defied societal norms, transcended cultural barriers, and demonstrated that faith is not bound by gender or status. By including her in these critical events, the Gospel writers elevated her to a position of prominence, one that speaks to her importance not just as a follower, but as a disciple whose loyalty was unmatched. But Mary's story does not end at the tomb. Her presence at the crucifixion and burial was merely the beginning of her most extraordinary moment, one that would solidify her place in history forever. In the next chapter, we will explore how Mary Magdalene became the first witness to the resurrection, chosen for a role so profound that it would challenge everything society believed about women and faith. If there's one moment that forever cements Mary Magdalene's place in history, it is her role as the first witness to the resurrection of Jesus. This event, arguably the most important in all of Christianity, was entrusted not to a king, a priest, or even one of the 12 apostles, but to a woman. Mary Magdalene was the first to see the risen Christ and the first to carry the message of his resurrection to the disciples. This extraordinary moment challenges societal norms, transforms her legacy, and reveals a deeper significance to her relationship with Jesus. The Gospel of John 20:1-18 provides the most detailed and intimate account of this event. Early on the morning after the Sabbath, while it was still dark, Mary Magdalene went to the tomb where Jesus had been buried. What she discovered would shock her. The stone had been rolled away and the tomb was empty. Confused and overcome with grief, she ran to tell Peter and John. The two disciples rushed to the tomb, saw the burial linens lying there, and left bewildered, still not understanding what had happened. But Mary stayed. This detail is crucial. While Peter and John left, Mary remained at the tomb, weeping. Her devotion to Jesus kept her there, and what followed was a moment of profound beauty and significance. As she cried, Mary looked into the tomb and saw two angels who asked her, "Woman, why are you crying?" She responded, "They have taken my Lord away, and I don't know where they have put him." Turning around, Mary saw someone standing there. It was Jesus, but she did not recognize him at first, mistaking him for the gardener. Then came the moment that changed everything. Jesus spoke her name, Mary. That single word, her name, opened her eyes. In that instant, she knew it was him. Overwhelmed with emotion, she exclaimed, "Rabboni," which means teacher. This intimate encounter reveals something profound. Jesus chose Mary to be the first to see him alive. In a culture where women's testimonies were often dismissed, this choice was revolutionary. Jesus didn't appear first to the disciples or religious authorities. He appeared to Mary Magdalene. This act was not accidental. It was deliberate. Jesus entrusted her with the most important message in Christianity. Go to my brothers and tell them, I am ascending to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God. Mary Magdalene did exactly as she was told. She went to the disciples and announced, I have seen the Lord. In doing so, she became the first messenger of the resurrection, earning her the title Apostle to the Apostles. This title reflects her role as the one who brought the good news to those who would later spread it to the world. But what makes this moment even more extraordinary is the cultural context of the time. In first-century Jewish society, a woman's testimony was often considered unreliable, yet Jesus deliberately elevated Mary, choosing her as the first witness to the resurrection. This act challenges societal norms and speaks to the radical inclusivity of Jesus' message. It shows that faith, devotion, and understanding are not limited by gender. The resurrection story is central to Christianity, and Mary Magdalene's role in it cannot be overstated. She was the first to encounter the risen Christ, the first to speak with him, and the first to share the news that would change the world. Her unwavering faith, her courage to stay at the tomb, and her obedience to share the message demonstrate why she is such a powerful figure in the Gospels. This moment also redefines her legacy. For centuries, Mary Magdalene's image was distorted, overshadowed by false narratives. Yet the truth is undeniable. She was chosen for one of the most significant roles in all of history. Her story is one of redemption, courage, and purpose. A story that challenges us to rethink assumptions about who God chooses and why. Mary's encounter with the risen Christ teaches us that those who seek with devotion will find, and those who remain faithful will see the truth revealed. Her role as the apostle to the apostles is a reminder that no one is too insignificant to carry a message that can transform the world. In the next chapter, we'll explore another layer of Mary Magdalene's story, the Gospel of Mary, an ancient text that offers a new perspective on her spiritual leadership and sheds light on the early struggles within the Church. Beyond the canonical Gospels lies a document that has stirred curiosity and controversy for centuries. The Gospel of Mary, an ancient text that provides a radically different perspective on Mary Magdalene's role among Jesus' followers. This apocryphal gospel, discovered in the late 19th century, offers a glimpse into the struggles, tensions, and dynamics of the early church. It not only elevates Mary Magdalene as a spiritual leader, but also challenges the traditional narrative of her place in history. The Gospel of Mary was found in a fragmentary form in 1896 as part of the Berlin Codex, a collection of ancient texts written in Coptic. Its origins are believed to date back to the 2nd century, making it one of the earliest writings about Mary Magdalene. Although incomplete, missing several pages at the beginning and middle, the text provides significant insight into her relationship with Jesus and the role she played after his resurrection. The document begins after Jesus' resurrection, as he imparts wisdom to his disciples before ascending to heaven. After he departs, the disciples are left in confusion and despair, uncertain of how to move forward. It is at this moment that Mary Magdalene steps forward to comfort and guide them. She shares a vision and teachings that she received from Jesus, demonstrating her profound understanding of his message. In this gospel, Mary is portrayed not only as a follower, but as a teacher and spiritual leader, someone whom Jesus entrusted with divine knowledge. However, the Gospel of Mary also reveals a conflict. As Mary shares her vision, Peter questions her authority. He challenges her credibility, asking why Jesus would have revealed such profound truths to a woman rather than to them. This moment is telling. It reflects the tension within the early Christian community regarding the role of women and the struggle for authority. Mary responds with grace and confidence, reaffirming that Jesus saw her worthy of receiving and sharing his teachings. Another disciple, Levi, defends Mary, rebuking Peter for his skepticism and acknowledging her leadership. This conflict highlights an important theme: the resistance to female leadership in the early church. The Gospel of Mary suggests that Mary Magdalene's role was far greater than what the canonical Gospels reveal. She was not only a witness to the resurrection, but also a leader who played a crucial part in guiding the disciples during a time of uncertainty. But why was this gospel excluded from the official canon? Scholars believe that as the early church formalized its doctrines, texts that presented alternative perspectives or emphasized female leadership were rejected. The Gospel of Mary was likely suppressed because it challenged the emerging hierarchical structure of the church, where men held positions of authority. Mary's portrayal as a spiritual leader may have been seen as too radical for the time. The discovery of the Gospel of Mary invites us to reconsider Mary Magdalene's legacy. It paints a picture of a woman who was not only devoted to Jesus, but also deeply understood his message and mission. Her leadership, wisdom, and vision make her a central figure in the story of early Christianity, one whose contributions were overlooked for centuries. The Gospel of Mary is more than just an ancient text. It is a powerful reminder of the importance of questioning the narratives we've been given. It challenges us to see Mary Magdalene not as a passive follower, but as a bold and enlightened leader who stood firm in her faith, even in the face of doubt and opposition. In the next chapter, we will explore the fascinating legends that claim Mary Magdalene's journey continued after the resurrection, taking her to France, where her legacy inspired devotion, pilgrimage, and mystery for centuries to come. After the resurrection of Jesus, legends surrounding Mary Magdalene's life take an unexpected and fascinating turn. According to ancient traditions and local lore, Mary is said to have traveled to the south of France, where she spent the remainder of her life in prayer, contemplation, and spreading the teachings of Christ. These stories, passed down through centuries, intertwine faith, mystery, and history, transforming Mary Magdalene into a figure of immense devotion in the region. The journey to France begins with a legend that claims Mary Magdalene, along with Lazarus, Martha, and others, fled persecution in Jerusalem. They sailed across the Mediterranean Sea in a rudderless boat, guided only by divine providence, eventually arriving on the shores of Sainte-Marie-de-la-Mer, a small village in Provence. This miraculous arrival marked the beginning of a new chapter in her life and the foundation of her veneration in France. Once in Provence, the stories diverge. According to one tradition, Mary Magdalene spent the remainder of her life preaching and converting the local population to Christianity. She is said to have traveled throughout the region, spreading the teachings of Jesus with the same devotion and courage that had defined her journey so far. Another version of the legend describes her retreating into solitude, living in a cave near Saint-Baume, a secluded location surrounded by forested hills. There, she devoted herself to a life of prayer, fasting, and repentance. The cave of Saint-Baume, believed to be her final dwelling place, became a site of pilgrimage. For centuries, devotees have climbed the steep path to this sacred grotto, seeking inspiration and connection to the woman they revere as a saint. The atmosphere of the cave, silent, remote, and surrounded by natural beauty, reflects the mystical aura that surrounds Mary Magdalene's legacy. Another significant site tied to Mary Magdalene is the Basilica of Saint-Maximin-la-Sainte-Baume. According to local tradition, this basilica houses her relics, including what is believed to be her skull, enshrined in an ornate reliquary. Pilgrims from around the world come to venerate these relics, drawn by the deep reverence that Mary Magdalene continues to inspire. The presence of these relics solidifies her connection to France, where she is honored not only as a saint, but as a symbol of devotion and transformation. The legends of Mary Magdalene's journey to France have inspired countless works of art, literature, and architecture. From medieval sculptures to Renaissance paintings, artists have depicted her as both a penitent figure and a beacon of faith. Her story also left a lasting mark on French culture, where she is celebrated through annual processions, feasts, and pilgrimages that continue to this day. But what do these legends mean? While some dismiss them as folklore, others see them as a reflection of the enduring power of Mary Magdalene's story. Whether or not she truly traveled to France, her presence in the hearts and minds of people across generations speaks to her universal appeal. She is a figure who transcends borders, embodying themes of redemption, courage, and unwavering faith. Mary Magdalene's journey to France, real or symbolic, reminds us of her timeless influence. She is not confined to a single place or moment in history. Her story continues to inspire those who seek transformation, hope, and purpose. The caves of Saint Baume, the basilicas, and the relics all serve as enduring reminders of her legacy, a legacy that defies time and continues to draw people closer to her story. In the next chapter, we'll explore how Mary Magdalene's image and influence have shaped the conversation about women's roles in the church, and what her story can teach us about equality, leadership, and faith. Mary Magdalene's story is more than a tale of redemption and devotion. It is a powerful reflection of the role of women in Christianity, both in its early days and in modern times. Her legacy serves as a reminder of what women have contributed to the church and how, over centuries, their leadership has often been minimized or overlooked. By examining Mary's role as a disciple, a witness to the resurrection, and a symbol of faith, we are confronted with an important question. What if women like her had not been sidelined? In the Gospels, Mary Magdalene is portrayed as a key figure in Jesus' ministry. She was present when few others were, at the cross, at the tomb, and during the resurrection. Her unwavering loyalty and courage set her apart as a disciple of exceptional faith. And yet, history attempted to erase or distort her contributions, casting her as a sinner instead of celebrating her as a leader. Why? Scholars suggest that as the early church developed its structure, it increasingly adopted hierarchical models that favored male authority, limiting the roles women could play. The Gospel of Mary, which we discussed earlier, shines a light on this conflict. In that text, Mary Magdalene emerges not only as a confidant of Jesus, but as someone who understood his teachings more deeply than the other disciples. Peter's skepticism toward her vision reflects the early struggles to recognize women as equal leaders in the faith. This tension, unfortunately, continued to shape the Church's treatment of women over the centuries. Mary Magdalene's example raises a provocative question. What would Christianity look like today if her leadership had been fully embraced? In her, we see a woman who broke societal norms, defied expectations, and stood boldly in her faith. She demonstrates that leadership is not defined by gender, but by devotion, understanding, and courage. Her story challenges us to re-examine the role of women not only in the past, but also in the present and future of the Church. Throughout history, Mary Magdalene has become a symbol for women seeking recognition and equality within religious spaces. From saints to theologians, countless women have drawn inspiration from her unwavering faith and her role as the first witness to the resurrection. arguably the greatest event in Christian theology. Her story sends a clear message. Women were present at the very foundation of Christianity, and their voices, leadership, and contributions matter. Today, Mary Magdalene's legacy continues to inspire movements that advocate for greater inclusion of women in religious leadership. She is seen as a model of strength and resilience, a reminder that faith transcends societal boundaries. By reclaiming her true story, we honor not only her, but all the women who have played and continue to play vital roles in the church, often without recognition. Mary Magdalene stands as a bridge between the past and the present. Her presence in the Gospels challenges traditional narratives and invites us to reconsider what leadership, faith, and discipleship truly mean. She was not merely a follower, but a leader, a teacher, and a symbol of transformation. Her story is a call to action, a reminder that the Church's strength lies in the inclusion of all voices. In the final chapter, we'll bring this incredible journey to a close, reflecting on Mary Magdalene's enduring legacy and the lessons she offers for the modern world. Mary Magdalene's story is one of faith, transformation, and resilience, an extraordinary journey that transcends time and continues to inspire people across the world. From her origins in Magdala to her central role in Jesus' life to the myths and misrepresentations that clouded her legacy, Mary's presence in history cannot be ignored. She has been a symbol of redemption, a faithful disciple, and the apostle to the apostles, trusted with the greatest message in Christianity, the resurrection of Christ. Her life reminds us that we are not defined by our past, but by our capacity for transformation. Mary's story began in darkness, tormented by 7 demons, but through faith and healing, she became a beacon of light. Her journey speaks to the power of redemption, proving that even the most broken moments can lead to profound purpose. This truth resonates with people of all backgrounds and experiences, reminding us that no one is beyond hope. Mary Magdalene also challenges us to see beyond societal labels and prejudices. For centuries, her image was distorted, reduced to a sinner or a symbol of shame. But her true role was one of courage, leadership, and unwavering loyalty. She stood at the foot of the cross when others fled. She remained at the tomb in her grief, and she became the first to witness the risen Christ. In her, we find an example of what it means to be steadfast in faith, even in the face of fear and doubt. More importantly, Mary Magdalene's legacy invites us to ask deeper questions. Who do we choose to remember, and why? Her story reminds us of the importance of reclaiming voices that have been silenced or misunderstood. By honoring Mary for who she truly was, a disciple, a leader, and a woman of extraordinary faith, we also honor those who seek truth, justice, and equality. In our modern world, Mary Magdalene stands as a powerful symbol. She challenges us to confront the narratives we accept, to celebrate the strength of women in history, and to embrace the transformative power of faith. Her journey from suffering to purpose reminds us that courage and devotion can overcome even the greatest obstacles. As we close this exploration of Mary Magdalene's life, let her story inspire you to look beyond appearances, to seek truth, and to embrace your own journey of faith and purpose. Her legacy is timeless, her courage unforgettable, and her message clear. Redemption is always possible, and faith has the power to transform us all. If you were moved by Mary Magdalene's story, a tale of redemption, courage, and unwavering faith, now is the time to share this message. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with someone who needs to know the truth about Mary Magdalene and her incredible legacy. Together we can honor her story and bring her message to the world. And here's a question for you. Do you believe that Mary Magdalene's role challenges the way history remembers women in faith? Let us know in the comments below. Your thoughts are important, and by engaging you help spread this message even further.